All right, welcome back to Spirit Squared. I'm Andrew Darrington, your host. Tonight we're here in Mineola, Texas, at the Beckham Hotel, our founding place. It feels so good to be back here at the Beckham Hotel, here in the Cigar Lounge. Man, it is going to be a great show. This is one of my favorite topics that we talk about. But before we get there, let's talk a little bit about some of the sponsors that we've got. We've got the Humidor and the Vault there in Tyler. Thank you so much, Blake and Virginia Young, for being a sponsor for us. Thomas and Martha Red for Red Construction. You guys were our first sponsors. Thank you guys for believing in us and believing in the content that we're putting out. And we've got Hoot and Holler Package Store in Gun Barrel City. Thank you so much for supporting us. If you need any spirits for the weekend, you want to go there. They're going to take care of you better than Eat Big Box Store will do. We've got Rick's Consulting. If you need a well dug, he's the guy to do it. Go look for him. And then we've got Ray Plunkett, who is a Goosehead, the insurance agent here in Lindale. And then Ken Ray's one of the funniest guys I know, and he's a great insurance agent. He saved a lot of money from myself and a lot of my employees. Without further ado, actually, I'm going to go ahead and introduce what I'm having as a beverage. I'm having Fortaleza Still Strength. What was it, like 2 years ago, I got to visit Fortaleza. It's in Tequila, Mexico. I had to fly to Guadalajara, and this was one of the bottles I brought back. Cool topper that's hand done. They hand blow all of their bottles. Just a Daytona crush all their agaves after they've been cooked in the oven, and it's just about as good as you can get. Hard to get. So really, really glad to have that tonight. We've got a couple others too, but all right. So now, without further ado, we've got Jared Brackenridge. He is the owner and CEO of Enginuity Energy Solutions here tonight. Thanks so much for joining us, man. I'm looking forward to our conversation. You do a lot of fun stuff here in Northeast Texas, don't you?
I do. I do, absolutely. Yeah.
Gotcha. So you were born in Van, right?
Yeah.
Or you lived in Van?
Yeah. So I lived in Van for most of my life.
Okay.
That's where I grew up and graduated.
Okay.
Yeah. So, lived in East Texas, my whole life, and yeah, Van, Texas.
Yeah. Gotcha.
Jam.
Yeah. So what was things like growing up in Van and then moving on and doing some other different things?
Yeah. Yeah. So, like I said, I grew up there, and was really involved in sports and band and choir, and then that's actually where I developed my passion for music. I actually played guitar so much as to going to college for it, and music ministry. Want some scholarship money for that, so it kind of started that journey, and so yeah, that was a really big part of my early years was in music. It's actually super. So
Very cool. So what'd you do after that?
yeah, so after so my first job was at Butcher's Grocery Company, and I'm sure everybody's
That's like the pinnacle of your 17-year-old life or something.
Yeah.
17, 18-year-old life.
17, yeah. Started 17. Got a car, had to pay insurance. So yeah, so started working there as a sacker, and then I actually spent 13 years there.
Oh wow.
Yeah, so 13
Oh,
years.
smokes.
Yeah, and the
I thought you were going to be a lifer.
Oh yeah, yeah.
You definitely were manager. No doubt about that.
Yeah. So the last 7 years of the 13 years, I was in management, and so, which was really cool, right? Because through that process, I learned a lot of management leadership skills.
Yeah,
I was there, and in grocery retail is a very challenging business.
Yeah,
a lot of people don't realize that it really is. Every nickel counts there. That's not big. So, but anyways, spent 13 years there.
Loss leaders.
Yes. So, but yeah, after Brookshire's, in January of 2020, I left Brookshire's on good terms, but I just wanted to seek a different opportunity, and started roofing in 2020, right?
Okay.
COVID. So
Yeah. Yeah, COVID started at the end of 19. So
Yeah.
it was really in its infancy in January.
Mm-hmm.
But so you get into roofing. What led you to roof?
Yeah. So when I left Brookshire's, I didn't have a job lined up in town, but a month or two after that, that's when people started not hiring because of COVID and lockdown,
Yeah.
all that. And so I was kind of at a standstill with not much opportunity. And my wife, she's a nurse at the hospital,
Okay.
and her friend's husband was a roofer, and so they saw a post right on Facebook. Hey, we're hiring, we're looking for roofers, and so I said, why not? Right, I have nothing to lose at this point. So I didn't know anything about roofs. Never been on a roof. It was brand new to me. To go from W-2 to 1099. Minimum sales. Big difference. Yeah, in every way possible. It was big as it gets as far as difference, and it turns out I loved it. Had good success with it. A year and a half into roofing, I went from not knowing anything to training others. Going how to roof and learning about roofs and polyester planes and all that stuff. So I spent about 3.5 years there, and then January of 2023, that's when I ventured on my own journey to start Enginuity.
Right.
And so here we are, 2 years old.
Yeah. So what led you to Enginuity? Like, what was the? Did you have some influences there that kind of got you started and moving? Because you're on roofs, and your prior experience is in grocery. So there had to have been like maybe a job site interaction or somebody that said, "Hey, this is kind of where the pattern is going," or maybe there's a vacancy vacuum here in East Texas or something like that.
Right? Oh yeah, absolutely. So that's a very interesting question.
Yeah.
Because there's several angles I could answer one. But I'll say this. So when I was with a roofing company in 2021, they introduced solar into their business. Right. So now we're selling roofs and solar.
Oh, yeah.
But when they introduced solar, I didn't know anything about solar, just like I didn't know anything about roofs, right? But if I'm going to train others about solar and sell it, right, I need to know about it. And so, I began to dive in as much knowledge as I could about it. And what I quickly realized was a lot of the things that I was hearing on, in the public or social media, I realized education is severely lacking in solar. Like it's not even close. Like it's super lacking. And so,
But it's scared knowledge.
it is, yeah.
And then you have like overconfident knowledge that doesn't know what they're talking
about. Absolutely, right? Yeah. But through that process of understanding this gap between the public and what solar really does and what it's about, the truths and the misconceptions and all that, I began to have this fascination about the technology that's working in harmony with the natural source, like the sun.
Yeah.
And so that just, I just thought it was fascinating. And so out of that, a passion just kind of grew in me about it, And, somebody said, and I don't remember where I've heard this, but it might have been a different podcast, but they said, if you're really passionate about something, you could do it and not get paid for 5 years.
Oh,
or
right.
something along those lines, right?
Yeah.
If you really love what you do,
event beats about that, stuff like that. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's how I feel about solar, So anyways, from solar, then I've kind of dived into other energy topics. We're talking, all building science, energy efficiency, backup solutions, power, generators, batteries. And so it just kind of webbed out to all these different energy scenarios that we could utilize for comfortability, having backup power, like I said, just leveraging all these things for our daily life.
So let's talk about those.
All right, let's go.
Because I'm really excited. There's a lot to talk about here.
Yes.
So let's unpack it. I think probably the best thing we should do is let's talk about a new home build
and you're my consultant, and I hire Ingenuity Power Solutions. And so, what are some of the suggestions that you're going to make to me when I'm building a new home? And then we can kind of maybe trace it to, because generators are a big thing, especially out here in East Texas and where we live. It's kind of storm central. Want to run through this area, so I think generators are a good thing to talk about. Why people do it? Why would you want to do it?
Right.
Because there's costs associated with doing it. And then we can dive into solar as well, but because there's a lot to unpack there. There's a lot of nuances there. But let's talk about some of the things that a homeowner could think about doing, whether it be a new home or a remodel, that could help with energy in itself.
Right. Yeah, it's a good question because, when we're talking about a brand new home, new construction versus a home that's already existing, there's two totally different approaches that I would have to those two. If we're talking about a new construction or a new build, right? The first thing so there's no usage history, right, to go on, right? They don't have an electric bill yet. So there's no data to utilize. And so at that point, what I want to do is become familiar with the home. So two things, really. So number one, what is the homeowner's desired outcome, right? So that I want to know why is this on your radar? Why are you looking into it? And how can I help you achieve that desired outcome?
Are you talking about energy consumption?
Yeah. And so whether it be backup power, solar, anything,
okay.
Right?
Yes.
And so I want to figure out what they want and why they, right? And start there. And then from there, I'm going to look at, okay, since we have no data, you have two options. You can wait, X amount of months to build up that data, build up that usage,
Right.
to get a feel for what your lifestyle is in the home, because that's really what all this comes down to, is your lifestyle, right? I could have two homes that are 1,600 square foot each and be identical homes, but this family's lifestyle and their way of living is going to be completely different from this family.
Buy TVs, fans on, air conditioner turned down 67 every night.
Yep.
Right.
Exactly. And so, I've seen smaller homes have higher usage than larger homes.
Yeah,
so
sure.
And so,
but I mean, there's also, I'm sure you're going to talk about insulation too, right? I mean, that's a huge factor that a lot of people don't weigh out.
Right. Absolutely.
And I'm sure that's a huge factor that goes into remodel too, right? Because insulation now, like then, and I've heard debate about different types of insulation too, that whatever's more effective.
Right.
Yeah, some people that are big spray foam people. There's some people that are against it. So I'm sure you're going to dive into this too, as far as total home energy consumption. Kind of, if you're looking at it from the vantage point of trying to save money and try to be as efficient as possible, then you have to weigh out. You can't just weigh out like the size of the AC unit, or the size of, maybe not necessarily the size of the house, the cubic footage of the house. It may be where your vent's placed or whatever it may be. So, but I'll let you talk about that.
Yeah.
Hey, podcast listeners, are you in need of some top-notch libations to elevate your next gathering? Look no further than Hoot and Holler Liquor Store in Gun Barrel City, your go-to liquor store for quality drinks. From smooth bourbons to crisp wines and everything in between, Hoot and Holler has one of the largest and most diverse selections in East Texas. Planning a special occasion? Let our experts guide you to the perfect bottle. You'll receive excellent customer service not offered in the big box chains. Visit Hoot and Holler today and let the good times flow.
The Humidor is your online cigar retailing headquarters. Our experienced staff has spent years finding some of the best cigars from around the world to sell to our customers. If you're looking for an online cigar store that can help you find your next favorite smoke, welcome to the Humidor. We began the Humidor because of our deep appreciation of the finer things in life, a good conversation with friends, an aged whiskey, and, of course, a fine smoke. That's why, in addition to selling premium cigars online, we also operate a brick-and-mortar cigar lounge in Tyler, Texas. Our lounge is crafted to provide a classic ambience with modern sensibilities, and we've spent time ensuring that smokers and non-smokers have an enjoyable experience, whether they're there for a drink with friends or to enjoy the game.
So yeah, so I would say, spray foam, if done correctly, would be, one of the top choices.
Right.
And then, cost-effective choices.
And it's worth the money.
Yes.
It's worth the money to spend a little extra to ultra insulate in Texas, because you're going to get the money back.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, you're going to get the money.
Absolutely.
So what are some other factors that we should consider when we're talking about either building a home or remodeling a home? Is there a big impact on the amount of outlets that I have, or maybe the amount of vents that my air conditioner has?
Yeah. So good question. What I would say is, the biggest way to make a home healthy, comfortable, energy efficient, lower your costs, all of those things. The biggest way is airflow.
Yeah.
Right. Airflow. And so what I mean by that is when they build a home, and you mentioned outlets, we're talking about light switches. We got vents in our ceiling. You have all these devices around your homes, but they're cutting holes in your walls.
Right.
And so what happens is when there's what we call a pressurized differential between your attic and the conditioned space of your home, it's going to draw the air out of your home into the attic or outside, right? You're losing air.
Yeah.
And so one of the ways that, we can look into that to see, okay, how much air loss do you have? It's called blower door test. That's something I didn't hear about until last year. I'd never heard that before. And so when I went down that rabbit hole of understanding, how much air loss there is, and actually how new builds within city limits should be doing a blower door test, because there's actually a code for that that you would have to pass. But it contributes to so many different things in your home. I've seen electric bills go from, save or be lowered from like 15 to 30% just by sealing up all of the air loss that's in your home. Right. And so anyway, through the blower door test, Rob, we're going to depressurize your home. And through that, we can figure out, okay, here's how much air loss you have. If we lower that to X amount, that here's kind of the savings and the outcomes you're going to have in your home of comfortability and things like that. Right.
Costs you $100. It saves you $2,000 over the X amount of time.
And we're talking cost-effective solution here. This is, a few $100. I mean, it's just not thousands of dollars.
Yeah.
Right. And I always say, when we talk about energy efficiency, one of my favorite slogans is, the best kind of energy is the kind we don't use.
Yeah.
You can't pay for the energy you're not using.
Right. You're talking about like doorways, windows,
all of it.
Yeah. And things like that.
And it's your duct system and for your HVAC. Oh, yeah.
And very cool.
Yep.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. All right. So let's talk a little bit about electrical services that you provide. There's a lot of new sciences that you mentioned kind of before we had this podcast that are kind of cutting edge. What are some things that we should know about, energy and things of that nature that we should kind of weigh out and consider when we're either using energy? Because a lot of us are thinking, like, we're in Texas. And the first thing I think about is the grid, and last year they, we're getting messages saying, hey, turn your thermostat on 73 and, at night, don't do this, don't do that. During the day, they like the state has even sent out like smart thermostats and things of that nature. So
what are some things that we should know from the science side of things, the energy science side of things that we should consider?
Yeah, no, absolutely. So, yes, so the word on the so since Snowmageddon, right? You mentioned Texas.
Oh yeah.
Right, we all remember Snowmageddon.
Oh yeah.
So
Very
since then, there's been a lot of conversation, um, within the Texas, uh, the folks up at top that are discussing about, using power from unnamed states. And so they're presenting things right now that over the next 5 to 7 years, there will be something in the works to set up a grid infrastructure to start borrowing power from neighboring states. And so, and so that's going to be a huge, effect on everyone, of course, because it's expensive to build, right? Someone's got to pay for it.
Right.
And so you got that. And then, of course, Encore a couple years ago signed a 4-year deal, right? They spent $19 billion to, revamp the infrastructure. And they said that we're going to pay 97% of the 19 billion of it, right? So we're paying that back. So
yeah, delivery fees and things.
yeah. So you have that going on, and a couple other things is, so what we're seeing is, in regards to solar energy, you have solar manufacturers that are actually buying out power companies, and and developing new power companies at the same time, to cater to what's coming, because there's a lot of things coming in the industry that's pretty exciting. And so we're seeing this shift of, there's a concern about power companies and not having good buyback plans and things like that, right? And so for example, I'll give an example. A panel manufacturer called QCell, I don't know if QCell, they bought out Chariot Energy, which is an electrical provider, right? And so with us, we have an exclusive plan that's with Chariot Energy for anyone who installs Q cells on their roof. Yeah, so you'll have exclusive plans that's not advertised or marketed in the public, right?
Right.
And so getting access to those plans can be very, very beneficial to your system.
Right. I think it's important to note, just keep your thought. I think it's important to note that anybody can go on Power to Choose. I think a lot of people don't realize, like, they just think TXU is their only provider, or hey, my neighbor has XYZ, and if that's who I have to go with.
Right.
And in Texas, we don't have to do that. You have the power to choose. You can have your provider. You're going to have somebody who delivers it, right? So you're going to, Encore's primary provider of that. Maybe TXU is your deliverer or whatever, but you're going to have an energy provider that you can choose.
Right.
And what you're saying is that if you choose to use this cell that saves you energy because it's more efficient, that there's an energy provider that will incentivize that energy, right?
Right.
So you would want to use them hand in hand if you install this in panel.
Correct. Right. So and I would like to clarify too at the same time that, there's a lot of options out there. There's a lot of panels and batteries and things you can use.
Sure.
And so I exhaust all those options, depending on the customer situation, the homeowner situation, right? But it's nice to know that these solar manufacturers are getting in the game of, hey, we see what's happening in the landscape of, grid-tied solar and buyback plans. Right. We're going to do something about it, right? Sure. So that's what we're seeing. So it gives us more options. So, and also what's cool is regarding batteries. So there's a power company called Octopus Energy. Octopus Energy, they're a fairly new company, but they're what's called a VPP, right? Virtual power plant. And so what that is anybody who has, let's say, an in-phase battery, right? And in-phase, it's a battery and inverter company. If you have an in-phase battery, then you would qualify for this plan to sell back energy from your battery to sell it to the grid,
Right.
and they will purchase that energy from it, right?
Right.
Tesla's doing the same thing. They have their own thing, Octopus Energy, and there's a couple others that are coming out this year, actually. And so batteries is the next good trend, right?
Yeah, let's talk about it, man. Let's talk about batteries. I love it.
Yeah.
We're going to talk about batteries. We're going to talk about generators. We're going to also talk about solar. So what pattern do you want to talk about?
Yeah. We could go. Let's start solar, and then we'll go into the batteries.
Okay, solar is a big one to talk about.
Yeah.
There's a lot of nuances here. So let's answer some questions, common questions that you see people posting, or that's the social media experts, and then the social media novices, and the folks that kind of clarify things. Yeah. So we know solar panels are typically on the roof. They want it to be on the side that the sun shines on the posts, right? Depending on the pattern and where your house is located, all that good stuff. I've done a little homework myself. And then not only that, but depending on the size of the house, right? Like you got to consider how many panels do you need? And so where's going to be your best area to affix the panels that are going to give you the bang for your buck, right?
Right.
So I'll let you take it from there. That's what I know so far.
Yeah. No, that's good. Yeah, that's right. There's a lot of variables. It's solar's like an onion, right? You go back one layer, next layer, and next layer, and it's just there's a lot of variables to consider. Panel orientation, like you mentioned, shading factor. How much roof real estate you have. There's gravity
Trees. Are there any trees?
Yeah,
around?
trees. If your neighbor's house towering over yours.
Well, if you're in an HOA or one of those areas that maybe dictate like what the house looks like, then maybe you need to put it on a side that's not.
If you are looking for a reputable builder with a proven track record and a client base to back it up, give Red Construction and Development LLC a call. Red Construction offers full design build services for new construction, custom homes, and remodeling with free site evaluations. They have an A+ rating with the BBB and are proud members of the Tyler Area Builders Association, Texas Association of Builders, National Association of Home Builders, and the Lindale Area Chamber of Commerce. Red Construction and Development LLC stands behind the exceptional quality of their work and have the expertise, the resources, and dedication to deliver the results you need on time and on budget. To learn more, give them a call at 903-630-8660 or visit them online at redconstructiondevelopment.com.
Are you looking to optimize your drilling rig operations and maximize productivity? Look no further. Rex Consulting is here to power your drilling. With over 20 years of industry experience, our expert team provides tailored solutions that drive efficiency, safety, and profitability. From site assessments to cutting-edge technology integration, Rex Consulting is your trusted partner for land-based and offshore oil and gas drilling solutions. Ready to take your rig to the next level? Contact Rex Consulting today and send your operations to the next level in operational performance. Contact Josh Simmons at 918-637-9181. Rex Consulting, level up.
Vault Arms is your premier destination for all things firearms. Extensive selection of handguns, rifles, shotguns, and accessories. Knowledgeable staff to assist you in finding the perfect firearm to fit your needs. State-of-the-art gun range equipped with the latest technology for a safe and thrilling shooting experience. Take advantage of our professional shooting instruction and training programs suitable for all skill levels. Host your next group outing, corporate event, or bachelor party at our spacious and secure shooting facility. Committed to promoting responsible gun ownership and firearm safety. Fully licensed and compliant with all state and federal regulations.
Visible to the road, right?
Right. Absolutely. And I think the biggest thing that I see when, whether it's on social media or talking to realtors or, friends or anybody, is the conversation of when they get solar and then like 3 years later, right. So like the long-term game, which I think that conversation is completely forgotten about or not mentioned or talked about solar. Sure. It's all for the immediate. It's all for now, like what we're going to do for you this year kind of thing. But, when I'm talking to solar, with a homeowner at a dinner table, right, I asking those questions of what is the next 10 to 15 years, right? And that's super huge. That's super huge because that affects so many industries, right? Whether it's appraisers, realtors, lenders, the solar industry, and then homeowners, of course, because they'll make this decision and they go to social media and, tell everybody their experience. And so, which is usually, a negative experience at that point. So,
Yeah, they made a 15 or 20 or 30-year commitment to having energy co-provided. Let's just be careful about that because the net goal here is it's overproduce, right? It's to co-provide and provide the majority, or if not all of it, even. But and you can speak better terms than this, but the goal I don't think is to overproduce. Is it right? Or your goal is not to try to sell back to the rate when you're buying solar? Is that right or no?
right. Yeah, yes, it can be a good thing. It can be, again, it comes back to a desired house, right?
Right.
Sure. But, and one of the ways is to overproduce, but I do see that a lot of times though, overproducing or giving them what we say is 100% offset system, right? Isn't the best option.
Right.
It is not, especially when you're getting into co-ops.
Right.
That's not under Encore, right? So we're talking Wood County Co-op, Cherokee County Co-op, and, Trinity Co-op. So, they all have different, solar buyback plans. Most of them aren't good, to be honest. And so when I'm looking at that, I'm thinking, okay, giving you 100% offset or over 100%, you're going to overproduce all this energy to not receive anything back for that. So you paid for all these panels,
Right.
as you just wasted money on, right? And so what I do is it's, and that's a big part because a lot of what we're seeing these out-of-state solar guys come, they door knock, right? They do install a blitz.
Yep.
And I tell everybody this, they'll do a blitz. They'll rent a hotel for a week or two. They'll door knock from morning to night, 7 days a week. Because their goal is to sell as much as they can. And so they come into a nuanced market like Texas that has all these different utility companies. We have regulated markets, deregulated markets. And so
So really good sun. I mean, we've got a lot of solar potential.
absolutely. Yeah, it's a lot of potential.
Where Seattle, not so much.
Exactly. Exactly. And so, so they come here, they sell a system that, they have no idea how the co-op works, and they give them a 110% offset system. Right. Then the homeowner, signs the double log, gets solar, and then before you know it, they then understand after the fact, what has happened. So anyways, but yeah, so 100% can be good, but it depends on, listen, other variables that contribute.
Yeah, I mean, I think what I get out of that as just a lay person when it comes to energy, it's if I pay for 110% offset, then I may be paying $75 to $80 more for that system, and I may be selling it back for $20.
Right.
And that's what I'm paying $80 more,
Right.
and I'm getting $20 back. It's kind of the way I think about it whenever I think about sellbacks. Depending on the company, you're right. Depending on the company, and then so then the converse conversation is, okay, well, if my goal isn't 100% offset, do you mean that we're going to put solar on my house and I'm still going to have to pay an electricity bill?
Right.
And that's kind of a hill that a lot of people struggle with.
Yeah.
Because let's say my electricity bill is normally $250 to $300, and so you're giving me maybe an 80% or 85% offset. So we build the system to offset that amount So now my bill's $50. A lot of people struggle with that because they're like, well, I shouldn't have a bill. And some months you may not because during the summer, there may not be a lot of cloud cover and you're getting maximized, production. And then during the winter or during the fall, or maybe during parts of the spring when we have a lot of showers or whatever, you may not get full production. So maybe that bill, instead of being 50, it may be 75 or 100. So I can understand the frustration if you don't understand that the system is built for what you want it to optimize and be, right?
Most people I've talked to, when in the situation where I present like a 70% offset,
Yeah.
it's like they think, why isn't it 100?
Right.
Why isn't it 110? Like I wanted 100.
Right.
Well, and there's the educational process, right? Sure, you got to walk them through that process and share that. And so sometimes they want, but a lot of times they see the value in having a 70% offset system, right? And so, yeah, I agree with what you're saying.
The way that I explain solar when either I talk to somebody that may not know much about it, or we're just talking about it in general, because it's a provocative topic. Because there's so many people that know a little bit and talk on it a lot, or they don't know anything about it, or they think they know all about it, and they're talking about it in terms that they know. And do you feel like solar is a hedge for future consumption? Meaning if this, if I invest in solar now, it provides energy today, right? So it's an offset. It's an offset of energy today. But the panels, most panels, that if I buy them today, they're going to be warranted for 20, 25 years, maybe sometimes 30. Depends on the type of panels I buy, correct?
Correct.
Okay, so if I buy them today, then my energy consumption stays the same. So meaning if I buy them and I finance them today, then I'm purchasing energy in the future, if that makes sense. So I guess what I'm saying is this: if my offset is 100%, let's just say it's 100%, just hypothetically, and we build a system to produce enough for a $300 electricity bill. Okay, so I'm paying X amount of cents per kilowatt hour, right? And I use enough to dictate a $300 bill. And so you build a solar system for me to facilitate enough kilowatt hours to nullify the $300 bill. Okay? If I know that I'm going to be in my place for 20 years and I do a 15, 20 year, whatever it may be, finance, basically what I'm doing with solar, if I know I'm going to be there for 15 to 20 years, is I'm stagnating my cost of electricity. Because if I finance, and there, you may be able to talk a little bit about the difference between me paying $300 for an electricity bill and you building a solar system for me that will facilitate the kilowatt hours that I'm using. There may be an offset there but at the end of the day, what is your electricity going to be in 10 years? Is it going to be the same price per kilowatt hour in 10 years?
Right. I
think we could both agree, considering the current situation with inflation, with whatever we want to talk about, we easy eggs and, this, that, and the other, and gas and whatever it is that we need to buy, rent, homes. What do we project electricity costing in 10 years? And so for me, when I look at solar, and it's just me going on rant, sorry, but for me, when I look at solar, the first thing you should consider, in my opinion, is how long are you going to be in your dwelling that you're currently considering solar in?
Right.
Am I going to be here for more than 10 years?
Right.
Okay, that's the first consideration. If you say yes to that, okay, moving on. Okay, the second thing is how many kilowatt hours are you currently using? And who is your provider? Okay, fine. We figure that out. Okay, you may have to change providers, which will help facilitate your change in the way that you consume. Okay, so, now here I've got a more friendly provider for my consumption because my consumption's now going to be off the grid 80%, 90%, 10%, right? Or 100%. So I've got a friendlier cohort that is going to understand like what my goals and ambitions are. The third thing you've got to consider is, okay, I partner with somebody like you, Jared, that says, okay, we're going to build an 80% consumption or offset system for you. And this is what we're going to provide. Your normal bill is, oh, that's our lovely, we love them. They're great people. But so you build me a 80% offset, and instead of my bill being 300, it's going to be 20. So it's going to be 240, right? Or I'm sorry, not 240. It's going to be $60, and then I'm going to have a $200 bill. And you may be able to talk a little bit more about those offsets because a lot of people this is where they get bots.
Yeah.
Is the number side of things and how they work. Because a lot of times when people look at a big number, like it's going to cost me $30,000 this week, they lose the strategic angle of what they're doing. Because the question becomes, so your house efficiency is the same, okay? In 10 years and in 15 years, if you're still there, and you're still 80% offset, and maybe it diminishes a little bit because the aging of the solar panels, right? That's another portion of things, right? It diminishes a little bit, maybe 2% a year or whatever it may be. You could talk a little bit about that too, but it's still, let's just say it's 75% offset in 10 years, okay? Well, your kilowatt hours aren't going to change. Still close to the same family. Maybe some family members are going to be older. You have teenagers now, whatever it may be. Consumption is going to be close to the same. And now you're going to be at 75, 78% offset. How much are your kilowatt hours now in 10 years?
Right.
Okay. Your payment on the solar system, depending on how you finance it, is going to be the same. Your consumption stays the same, but kilowatt hours may change. It may go from, I've had close friends that have gone from 6, 7, 8 cents to 13, 14, and 15 cents recently.
Right.
Because they signed a contract with TXU and said XYZ, and it changes when that contract ends because the cost of consumption changes. Now I'm going to get off my high horse because I don't want to take your thunder, but I mean, I know a lot about this issue, and I want to make sure that people understand the dynamics of it. Is that you're paying for future consumption relief. You're hedging on the fact that you believe that energy is going to cost you more in the future, which I think all of us, if we were at a casino and we were betting money to see, okay, in 2030 or 2035, I bet $10 or I bet $100 that energy is going to be more. Mm-hmm. Everybody's going to bet on that line. Okay, well, guess what? If you go solar, you're going to win that bet every time. And the only thing that you should consider is, are you going to be there? if you're there, it's a good bet. Everybody's going to bet that because you're offsetting kilowatt. I wanted to spell it out for people.
No, that's good.
From my standpoint, I'm the guest. I didn't want you to have to spell it out for them, so that way it's coming from me the way I understand it.
Me. Yep.
From a consumer standpoint.
Right.
I'm the person on the other side of the table looking at it going, it's a no-brainer in a lot of ways, but there's a lot of things to consider.
It is. Yeah, a lot of variables. So we talked about Encore, right? So I looked at fairly recently the last 25 years, and I think it was from 1998 to 2023. That was the top rate. To kind of see the average kilowatt hour rate from 1998 to current, or to 2023. And it went up 157%.
Oh, yeah.
Right, is what it was. And so that's what people have to understand is that is a blueprint for the next 25 years. So when you're thinking that, like what you're saying, okay, so that's the way it's been, that's where it's going. How do I hedge against that, right? And so if we're talking about, it really comes down to this, right? Solar, many people go solar for many different reasons, right? Most people that I talk to, including myself, so I have solar on my house as well, is the reason we go solar is for energy ownership. It's all about ownership, right? And so it's, if you have the 70% offset, right, it comes down to owning 70% of something versus 100% of nothing, right? Is the way someone put it. And so as rates continue to go up another 157% or whatever that may be, you're cutting that cost because at some point, whether you pay cash or you finance, depending on which route you go, at some point you're going to own that energy, right? If you pay cash, you own it on daily life, right? And so you immediately hedge against that utility inflation, right? And so and so it is a big conversation, and I do think, it does get a little bit of the weeds, but there's a lot of variables going on, like you said, and so that's how I would approach it, right? I would try to paint that picture of, it's spelled for us. This is the future. This is where we're.
Well, how often is it I'm sure it's super difficult to try to break that down to someone across from dinner table. Is it difficult to like?
Yeah, it's challenging. I wouldn't say difficult. I guess I would use that.
Okay.
What's cool is I utilize a software. It's called Vision. And
Shout out to Vision.
Yeah. So Vision is a really cool, unique software that it's what we create our proposal on. On that proposal, it spells all that out. It literally shows over the next 25, 30 years, if we could key in, the increased rates, or on average rates go up 3 to 4% every year.
Right.
So if you key that in, it's going to show you that over the next 25 year span, right? Here's what utility rates is going to be like. If you go solar, right? Here's what you're going to be paying the solar over the next 25, 30 years.
Right, because you can break it down like if you're financing X, because some people are going to have to finance it, some people could pay cash, but if they are having to finance it, then you can break it down per kilowatt hour or what you're financing. Like, say, okay, well, you're using this amount of kilowatt hours, and this is what you're paying for it. And a lot of times, it may be the same as what they're paying. Right. So they're paying 13 cents or 12 cents or whatever. What does that look like in 10 years?
Right.
Okay, well, guess what? You're paying 10 to 12 cents a kilowatt hour.
Right.
Where your neighbor is paying 17 to 20. And so on and so forth. And they're having to, use Energy Ogre and all this stuff, these other places to try to figure things out.
Yeah.
And in some places you don't have a choice.
Right.
For me, it's Wood County Co-op. That's who I have to use. They're the only provider.
Right.
And so then it's like, okay, well, this is what they're charging you now. if I develop a 80 to 90% offset, then what do things look like in 10 years, 20 years? Now, the one thing I'll say about that, because we're kind of beating a dead horse in certain ways, but let's talk a little bit about something that Rudy Wright's been on the podcast before, and we shout out to Rudy. Yeah, shout out to Rudy. I love him, man. Great guy. It was like, a lot of people think that solar is gonna be my backup. You know, okay, well, I'm gonna get solar so that way when I lose power, I've got electricity. It's not quite that way.
No. And it's funny that you mentioned that because like we were talking before the podcast, so I just moved, right? I moved from Lindale to Quitman.
Yeah, you got a new place, right?
Yeah, just got a new place.
Congrats, man.
Thanks.
Yeah.
And
But what was his? Super happy about it.
oh man, yeah, we're stoked to be out there. Yeah, we're gonna homestead and it'll be fun. So,
Yeah.
but what was interesting is when we were selling our home, we had solar panels on our roof.
Yeah.
And when the appraiser came by, he was there for maybe 30 minutes. Just kind of scoped the home. Didn't bring up solar, didn't ask any questions. When he was heading out the door, he made a comment to my wife, and he said, well, hey, saw you got solar. It'll be nice to have power when the grid goes down. And it's like, it's not how it works.
Right.
So, but I say that to say that it's a common misconception. I've heard realtors say it. I've heard, appraisers say it. And a lot of people do think that. And matter of fact, I've talked to many homeowners who went solar, thinking that was going to be the case. And they found out, no, you got to have a generator or battery to do that. So, but to kind of touch on the last topic, there's something else I wanted to mention.
Yeah,
A lot of
sure.
people don't understand that's coming as well. And it's something called the TOU plans, TOU rates, time of use rates. It's very popular at some other states that are experiencing time of use rates. And what that means is at peak times of the day when the grid is being quote unquote, overused. The utility company will then will triple or quadruple the rate within that time frame of high usage, right? So
Like a surge.
yeah, it's like a surge, like
Uber surge.
yeah, exactly. So it could be like between 4 and 8 o'clock. It could be between 6 and 10. It varies. But the word on the street is that's coming to Texas. That's going to be very common. Here's a friend here.
I work the. I love.
Oh, that's cool.
That's it's one of the things I love about this place.
Yeah.
All right, so this what was it called?
The time of steel.
Time of TOU.
And so what's cool is a lot of these batteries have, it's one of the modes that you could use these batteries. It's called the TOU.
Oh,
And so what that is you program the battery during those time of use.
got like surge during that time.
Yep. And so you're pulling from the battery instead of the grid.
Oh,
And so like California, for example, when it hits the time of use rate of the day, it goes high as 70-something cents a clip. Like you're talking almost $1. Oh, it's crazy. And so instead of pulling from the grid and paying that, right, you're going to pull from the battery instead during that time. So there's several modes batteries have, but they're really calibrated on experience.
They're trying to make you like 80-90% offset when you're not, right?
Yeah, well, it doesn't really raise your offset, I would say. Okay, it really doesn't. When I first got into solar, that's what I originally thought too. That you add a battery, that's going to like raise your offset, but it doesn't in a sense. But what it does do,
It just maintains it.
yeah. So yeah, well, when we're talking batteries, kind of does maintain it, but It doesn't raise your offset to inset sec because we're all referring to the solar panels. And when you're paying a fee for your solar system, right way, it depends on if you take cash or you finance.
Yeah.
When you add the battery costs in there that you're paying, right? That's another variable factor. It's not really much of a savings conversation, I would say, if you're talking batteries, right? And so adding that variable, I don't know if that makes sense of what I'm trying to say.
Well, trying to figure out how a battery would save me money if I'm enduring a surge period of time. Right. So if let's say the surge is between 3 and 5, that's when everybody's like kicking all their air conditioner eyeballs, right. And that because it's hitting 101 degrees and stuff like that. So yeah, I guess I would see a surge in kilowatt hours usage, and the battery would like offset that and say, well, wait a minute, instead of you having to use that as part of my offset, the battery would help a little bit more with that offset. So you'd already have an 80-20 maybe offset with your solar and your normal consumption.
Right.
And so the battery would step in and go, okay, well, during these hours, we see more of like a surge. It's still 80-20, but the energy company is charging more for the 20 that you're using. Mm-hmm. And so the battery would say, okay, during this time period, set it right. So then we're going to tone it down to like 90-10 during this time. And so you're only using 10. So that way your consumption is modified during the surge.
Right. Yeah, I think no, it does. It does.
Okay.
I mean, so much what you're saying.
Yeah, that's what I heard.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's cool, man. That's so what type of providers are we talking about when it comes to those types of batteries?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so like I mentioned, Octopus Energy, a provider.
Is that a battery?
Yeah, so they have special plans for batteries.
Right? Oh, right. Yeah. Okay. So what kind of providers are we talking about for the actual batteries that have those I forgot the acronym.
Oh, the MVP.
Yeah. So like you said that was Covington, Texas, and so if that's Covington, Texas, like what kind of providers are we talking about from a battery standpoint that has that capability?
For sure, yeah. So I mentioned Tesla, so that's exactly what they do.
Yeah,
have that. You have
lots of bad word right now. A lot.
It's polarizing a little.
It's great technology.
Yeah, it's like I don't know when to bring up Tesla.
Honestly, I've never let politics influence my pocketbook. Honestly, I've never let it do it. It's my pocketbook. A lot of times those tentacles don't even get to me.
Yeah.
So why should I be ritzed about it? Nonetheless, I mean, whatever.
Yeah.
That's just my take on it. Hot take.
Yeah.
If you want to call it that. I mean, I don't really get political here, but if it doesn't touch your pocketbook, and 9 times out of 10 it doesn't.
Right.
Unless if it's inflation and stuff like that, get that. But typically, those are factors that are widespread. Doesn't matter what party line you are on, you're going to be happy.
Right.
So, to me, it's like, all right, well, if you're doing that, that's just, and then we have to consider so many points of view and spins and all that kind of stuff.
It's interesting, isn't it? Yeah, it's interesting.
It's interesting how much a company like Tesla has changed from one vantage point to another.
Right.
And again, I don't want to get political and stuff like that, but they just have cool products.
They do.
And if it's for the greater good, then that's all I care about.
Right.
It's just if they're doing something cool, great. Because I promise you, they've got a ton of people that are working on it that are from a variety of different.
Yeah.
And some of them are staying, and some of them are on this side, that side, but they're all behind that brain.
Mm-hmm.
So good on them. Good on them.
Yeah.
Like it's a representation of all of the lines.
Right.
in my opinion.
Right.
So,
I
anyway,
agree.
what anybody else? Anybody else?
Yeah. So there's another one called base power.
Oh, cool.
Base power. Yeah. So there's one. I've heard there's two more coming. I don't remember their names off the top of my head, but there is a couple more coming out this year.
We won't dock you.
Yeah, Wes. They're not here yet, but they will be soon, sometime this year. There's no date or anything.
Right. So these guys step in
Yeah.
when you need more of an offset, basically.
Yeah.
Okay. Cool. Cool. Yeah, I like that. So we talked a little bit about solar panels. One other thing to talk about with solar panels is insurance. So homeowners insurance is something I think you should look into, depending on your provider, because they may look at things and would say, okay, well, wait a minute, we're drilling into your roof. And that anytime you drill into a roof, that provides the potential for leaks or whatever it may be. So that's a conversation we can have, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. With insurance, it's good to let insurance know that you do have panels on your roof if you should go solar. But what people need to understand is that only certain carriers are offering coverage for your solar system.
Okay.
Right?
Not that much. You may have to change coverages.
You may have to, yeah. And so from what I'm seeing is it's the big carriers, right, are the ones that are offering the coverages. Some of your smaller carriers aren't. And so, that's something to be aware of when you're considering solar.
Gotcha. Cool. All right. So let's talk a little bit about some of the common misperceptions you've had, or I think we kind of talked a lot about that. So let's move on to tax breaks. So that's one thing that some people kind of struggle with, is, okay, I've heard about some tax breaks that the government's offered me if I do solar. How does it work? How much is it? How does that money kind of figure out in the dissection of the cost of the year?
Yeah. So I want to be very clear because this is a big conversation.
Yes, sir. This is another number. Like, it's another number you got to consider.
So it is not a rebate.
Okay.
And that's a lot of people are told that. The little YouTube ads that you see on YouTube's of solar, it says it. So the 30% tax credit, right? That's what they call it, 30% tax credit or tax exempt, is that it's a tax credit, right? It's not a rebate. And so I want to be very clear about that. But it's 30% of your total cost. Okay, right? So to keep numbers
That's
easy, right?
good.
Yeah, so great. It is. And so 30% of your total cost. And it's typically for people who have tax liability. Okay? Who have tax liability. Right. Yeah. So
not the single mother with a couple kids that's already getting $6,000 back. But now I'm getting 30% of my system. It's you're in a situation where typically, you're break even or you're paying a little bit.
Right. Yep. And so, that's I can't tell you how many people I've talked to who have gone solar and thought that they were going to get this check or in X amount of months they were going to receive a check or whatever the story they were told. But what happens is if you finance solar, if you finance solar and
two times,
guys, I'm sorry, I don't know why.
Because you're talking loud. You used to be in you're used to being in an attic.
Yeah, I'm used to being in the attic. Yes, for sure.
Right.
Just came from an attic right before this.
Yeah.
So excuse me. So if you don't, here's the deal about the tax. The tax incentive is if you finance your system in 18 months after you finance a system, that 30%, if you don't pay back towards your loan amount goes up.
Yes.
And I've seen so many people,
Because most loans have that built into it, right? Like spikes. Yeah, we're gonna have a track. Here we go. We're gonna you go ahead and call that hand track. Yeah. That's like the what third or fourth thing. Yeah, I love them. I love it. Or it's Amtrak. Well, still fun. But
So you're after 18 months, you're gonna get a tax credit on your taxes, and it's going to be built into taxes. Whoever the preparer is, they're going to put it, and whoever you finance your solar panels with, whoever the provider is. Hopefully, it's Ingenuity, right? Please, Ingenuity. Yeah. If you finance it, and I'm sure you have finance that work with. So you're doing the job, they're financing. So you're helping the homeowner kind of navigate through this process. So you do a deal, and then you get 30% back. And folks that are financing, bank people are going to say, okay, well, we're going to have you pay $250 a month, whatever it may be. I'm just using that as a hypothetical. That's not typical or atypical. It could be typical, depending on the size of the system that you build. And so then you've got a lump sum payment within 18 months. So let's say 15 months in, they're going to build a lump sum payment in your bill. I think it could be 5, 7, 8, whatever it may be, $1,000. You have the choice as a consumer to not pay it. Okay, so if you don't pay it, then your monthly rate goes up to $350, right?
correct.
For the end of the term. So it's kind of like a, okay, well, you're going to refinance at the end of 15 months if you choose not to make this lump sum payment. Right. If you make the lump sum payment, because they're financing you with the assumption that you're getting 30% back, and we're going to keep it at 250. Right. That's the goal here. Is they know, like, hey, this is a solar plan. You know that you're going to get 30% back. We know you're going to get a $7,000 check. And so then the consumer has a choice, like, do I want to buy a $7,000 car for my kid who just got their license? And now I'm going to pay $350, and maybe my prior consumption was $285 a month. So yes, you're paying more, but you chose not to take a rebate, right? And you chose to take the $7,000 and use it for a car.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. And so, yes, you're going to be paying more because you made that choice. And we set up this payment plan. What is a typical payment plan for a solar program?
Yeah, so are you talking about like the financing?
Yeah, what's a typical, is it typically 15, 20 years? Or
Yeah, so we have about 5 different financing options, so they will range from 5 to 30 years.
30 years, wow.
Yeah.
Holy moly. Okay, so it begs the question, if you're financing panels for, let's just say, 20 years, what is the lifespan and the warranty and
Yeah, so typically the typical warranty for a panel is going to be 25 years.
which is a lot more than people think.
It is, but that's 25 years from the manufacturer. But what the manufacturer is saying is that they're guaranteeing the panel will be at 80% efficient at the 25-year mark, and a little higher, 80% or higher.
Right.
And so theoretically, right, the panels are going to last much longer than 20 years. We're talking 30 to 40 years. I've seen panels that are still producing really good from the 90s, that were installed in the 90s. They're still going strong. So, yeah, they have a much longer lifespan than people think.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Cool. I mean, I think we broke down a lot of finances, which is hard to like figure out. At the end of the day, like if you're considering it, we need to number one, you need to consider how long.
Sure.
If you do that, then you get Jared on the phone and you have him come out. You have him take a look at the square footage, and a lot of times you can just take a look at like last 12, 24, 36 months of consumption, and he can build you a plan. Like, and then take a look at like how much square footage do you have on your, and where's the best area to absorb this energy, and then you're going to build them a plan and say, hey, look, this is how many candles it's going to take, and this is what it's going to cost, and so then at that point you're like, okay, where do I want to set my energy consumption?
Right,
I want it to be $250 to my panels for 15, 20 years, and I want it to be $50 to my provider. But who do you want to pay?
Right.
Because, like you said, I mean, if there comes a time where I can pay off my panels in 15, 20, 25 years, and they're still producing at 40, and there's an offset, what do you want it to be?
Right.
Do you want it to be your provider, or do you want it to be what you are purchasing?
Right.
Which one do you want? Right. And how much is a kilowatt hour in year 10, 15, 20?
Oh yeah.
What is it going to be? Because you're not negotiating with yourself. You've already set, because you can take, let's say it's 80-20 and your 80 is to, like, we're beating a dead horse, but I still want people to understand this. Okay, so 80-20 is going to be $200, okay, and you use X amount of kilowatt hours. And it ends up averaging to, let's say, 12 cents an hour, okay? That 12 cents is set for the longevity of your loan. As long as you pay not your rebate, but your incentive. So as long as you pay that, you get $7,000 back, and you pay the $7,000 towards a loan, you're going to keep that 12 cents. It's always going to be there throughout your loan. So you're always going to be 12 cents. That's what you're going to pay. It's not going to change. And then eventually you pay it off, it pays you back. Right?
Absolutely.
So then the 12 cents that you paid throughout the loan pays you back. And, if you want to look at it in retrospect, for me, it's like, well, it's just alleviates your overhead.
Yeah. Absolutely.
So anyway, all right.
Yep.
All right.
Yep.
So I think we got everything out that we could from a solar standpoint. I am a big believer. For me, the big thing is like, I've never stayed anywhere for longer than 10 years. Yeah. So the hard part is like, okay, and we all pulled the trigger at our old house, but then my wife wanted to remodel our whole house, and I was like, okay, we're not going to remodel, we're going to build.
Yeah.
If you want to remodel this whole place, it's going to cost $80,000. So what we're going to do is we're going to get, and we had some dynamics that also went at play, but it was we would have done 100% because it makes sense fiscally. It makes sense,
right?
You talked a little bit about an appraiser coming out there. Was there any financial advantage to having a solar panel
on? No, there wasn't.
Okay.
So typically,
is it a wash? Typically, if I'm going and I'm selling my house, should I consider the solar panels to be part of the equity?
Oh, gotcha. No. So my situation was a little different in that, I took my system with me. Right.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I took it with me. so I saw it.
Yeah. So if I'm sitting back and if I'm selling a house and I decided to do solar and I'm maybe 10 years into a 20-year note, should I consider part of that investment as part of my equity?
That's part of it. Yeah. Yeah. So, are you talking about like raising the cost to have that covered?
Yeah, well, or raising the price.
Yeah.
So my real estate agent says that my house is worth $350,000.
Yeah.
And but I've got solar, which should kick in another X. What should that number be?
Yeah. So it really depends on the market at the time, right? If we're talking, 2021, right, that market comparison.
unfair.
But yeah. But when you're looking at that versus when I moved, right, it was very slow when I moved, and
Right.
so buyers had all the leverage, right, at that time. But typically, from my experience and what I've seen is that your chances of raising the value of your home or adding to the cost to cover your solar system is typically not better. Typically.
Yeah, no, it's going to be a fraction.
Yeah, it's going to be a fraction. Yeah.
Maybe 50%, 25%. I mean, whoever moves in there is going to get a winner. And of course, there, you should consider some of it,
Right.
but you're not going to get it all.
Right.
Right. So if you make a change in what you're doing, within the construct of your financing, you're going to probably suffer some loss.
Right.
And the other thing is, if you do decide to sell within the construct of your financing, then you're going to have to pay it off.
Yeah, paying off the
Well,
close.
there it goes. So
Yep.
there's a couple things to think about there.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Cool. All right. So let's talk about generators. Okay. So I just recently purchased a generator. It wasn't a Generac, which I understand is the
End all be all, right?
yeah, man. Like, I love the fact that I have some neighbors that have some Generacs, and man, we lose power, and bam, you hear them kick on. It's a no nonsense, like immediately you're taken care of. It's a peace of mind plus.
Yeah.
Like it's the peace of mind plus. So talk to us about generators. There's really no tie into solar,
Right.
when you're talking about generators, right?
Right. Yeah. So you can have a generator in solar, but I will say that there are battery manufacturers that are, building their batteries to be compatible with generators to work hand in hand, right?
Okay.
So that is there. Franklin is a battery. It's a good prime example. Perfect integration of the generator. So you can kind of have best of both worlds. But yeah, a lot of folks that go solar and they just want to have backup power. That's all they care about, as far as from that standpoint. Then yeah, they'll go the generator route. And as you said, Generac is a household name around here. Most people are familiar with that brand, so they tend to gravitate towards what. Right.
Sure.
There's other great brands out there. Briggs and Sons, Kohler, even Champion. Champion, they're known for their portable generators, but they actually have a home generator right now that they just launched not too long ago, and so it's very unique too in the way how they built that. So I'm very intrigued about Champion. There's a lot of great options out there, and of course, with the electrician company that I'm also with, we're service techs for Generac, dealers for them. So we're very familiar with Generac, but we just installed a 46 kW Kohler generator, right?
Nice.
For I think the house was, I don't know exactly, but I would guess a 5,000 square foot home. It's a very large home, and so yeah, so there's a lot of good options out there to generate.
Yeah, I've got a good buddy that's in the market for a Generac, so he's gonna be reaching out to you pretty soon.
Okay,
Yeah, he's it's peace of mind. That's all it is. It's peace of mind. Like, if you're uncomfortable, if your electricity goes out, then you have the funds to do it, then you should do it.
Absolutely.
For me, I did a mobile with a plug.
Yeah.
And that means good enough. Look, for us, there's only two of us. So that's a big factor to take an account. And the second thing is, like, I don't need HVAC.
Yeah.
And so if you don't need those things, then you can plug in that and just have a fan.
Keep it simple.
Yeah, and then plug in your phone, have a fan, and not have to go to the bathroom in the dark, and you're good. You know, and you're basically like powering like an RV source.
Right.
Right. And if you keep it to that, then you can do that way, and it's going to be a fraction of the cost. But if you want to go full vamp, and I think plenty of people do, especially in this area, then you should do it. And it's a diesel option, right? It's diesel. Yeah. So you're just all you're doing is making sure your diesel fuels are there, or how does that work?
Yeah.
Or is it propane?
Well, it's gas and propane.
Okay.
Is your two primary options. And so, some folks, are in areas where they don't have access to gas or they don't have a propane option to connect it to. So, from there, there's you'd have to have a propane tank installed.
Yeah, for sure.
And I think Generac recommends minimum a 250 gallon tank, right? Minimum. Because if you have a smaller tank than that, then depending on what you're running, right, the run times are not going to be long, right?
Yeah.
And so, that's the two primary ways, to power here, to use the fuel.
Yeah, for sure. Josh, let's do a break. I gotta
Yep.
Sorry, man.
No,
We're almost done.
Yeah.
Sorry, man.
I don't know what happened. That's crazy, dude.
it's all good. I didn't mean to jinx you out there with it.
No, that was crazy. Well, yeah, like I don't know if you're here, but I literally case for being in the attic with round insulation. Yeah, I don't know if that's like, now that I'm talking, it's messy.
Yeah.
Or I don't know, but yeah, over.
Yeah, no worries. I've been taking notes of that, so any of the bigger towers. As long as you're okay.
I'm good. There's times where, he's talking, I'm over here just kind of swallowing in my throat, just kind of trying to keep it tame or whatever, just trying to, it's become too much over. It's part of life. Bro.
Yeah.
So you still doing that videography and all that stuff?
Yeah, he's still. Yeah. I have a day job with the Postal Service. But yeah, weekends and stuff. And then Thursday evenings.
Yeah.
But yeah. No, it's great that you kind of happened upon it after different.
Yeah, absolutely.
So
Yeah, Josh, don't do that.
yeah.
So, yeah. Oh, like a walrus. Oh. C. E. And this one's really good. Yeah, my favorite. It is the top, man. It's so pretty awesome. It's, golly, it's good.
Yeah.
I haven't had it. This bottle's probably 3 years old.
Oh, really?
So good. That's one. You want some of this? I have it.
Okay. But yeah, I'll there's this. That's awesome.
I like this. It's like another level good.
Oh, yeah.
To me.
Yeah.
I love those 10-hook yellows. But it may just be in my... Okay, so we're talking about Generacs.
Okay.
All right, so we were talking about Generacs, Generac generators, and peace of mind and all that good stuff. Let's talk about hybrid systems. Amy, what is a hybrid system and how does it work?
Yeah, so hybrid systems, as I know it, is Well, I'm more familiar with the hybrid systems in the battery.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah. So in the battery world, you have what's called a DC coupled a battery, an AC coupled battery, and so you have an off grid and a grid tied battery that has both capabilities, right? So some people want to be connected to the grid for whatever reason. Some people don't want to be connected with grid, like we'll be installing. So you start off with that process, right? Energy efficiency, lowering your usage, and then consider solar on the back end, right? Because if we can lower that usage, we're going to lessen the amount of panels you need and lower the total cost of solar 100%. And I think that's something I wish more solar companies focused on, is on that side, because it's a holistic approach, right? I'm not coming to you to slap some panels on your roof, and why not lower your usage at a very cost-effective amount, and then let's revisit that conversation with a revised usage data, right? And so, then that would be my top priority or number one option, is to have that conversation first with solar. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely, 100%. I love it. I mean, the thing that I think scary about solar is the numbers. Yeah. There's a lot of numbers that you have to weigh out. The first thing that you have to weigh out is how long you're going to be there. And that commitment is hard for a lot of people, because they're like, well, a lot of things can happen in life, this, that, and the other. And if you're set, like, you should do it. It's a no-brainer to me, because you know that the price of consumption is going to go up. So what do you wait? You should do it, as long as you can find an energy provider that will work with you, and you find an insurance provider that will work. It makes and your house is set up to do it. Like, if you've got a bunch of trees that are all around your house, it's not gonna make sense. Just not. So you're gonna have to find some other ways to be energy efficient, whether it be insulation or like you said, like caulking,
Blow door tennis.
yeah, or whatever. You're gonna have to search. But if your house is like most houses in Texas, and where you can produce a bunch of energy because the sun's out and your root's out, then do it. If you're gonna be there for extended amount of time, it doesn't make any sense not to do it. It's an offset of future consumption that you know is going to go up. Simple as that. It's very simple. If you worry about whether or not you're going to stay there, then you shouldn't do it. But I love generators. I think it's such a great concept. And I got to use mine last night for the first time.
Wow, that's cool.
So I tested it. I did a test like 2 weeks ago, where I was like, all right, my wife's not home, which means if I mess up, she's not going to complain, right? And Josh, I mean, she can't complain, but she's not here.
Yeah.
So she's not there. She's on a girls trip. I wheel out the portable generator. I had this great guy install the plug, and I kick it on, and I plug it in, click on some lights and stuff like that. Bam! I'm like, heck yeah! I'm gonna turn the furnace off, HVAC off, and it's peace of mind. The last night, Wood County had a big outage of 8,500 people. It was a transformer that went out. Of course, they said, "Hey, look, it's gonna be probably 6 to 8 hours." So I had plenty of gas, because one of the things that I don't think Generac requires this, but for a portable generator or any other generator, you have to test it. And you have to keep like the fluids going and stuff like that. So I do that every week. I test it, make sure it's good, make sure fluids are good. That's important. And so we're out. I waited like 15 minutes to make sure that we go around, kick it on. We got lights. And that itself, like,
It's cool.
it was a cool, I've never had it. I've never done it.
Right.
Like, it was the first time for me to kick it on and us turn on fans, turn on power,
Yeah.
and be able to, like, if we wanted to cook dinner, go to the restroom with lights on.
Hey, Big, you want to go watch TV?
Yeah, you want to watch the TV? You got Wi-Fi,
Yeah.
so you can maybe watch the weather if weather's coming through. There wasn't any weather coming through, just a transformer. But if weather was coming through, out of that, I mean, I think Generac is definitely something that people should heavily consider in this area.
Yeah, absolutely.
Even though I've decided to do a variety of it, if there was an uptick of events in my area, I would 100% do it. I'm doing like the modified version of it.
Right. Right.
And so I would do Generac in a heartbeat if the need provided itself.
Yep. It's typically people that I talk to, it's typically people out in the rural areas, out the country, where, because you got to think, if there is an outage or a transformer blows or whatever the situation, you're the last one they're worried about, right? So they'll get to you eventually, right? So, I'll hear people say, they lose power monthly almost, right? Or every other month, and they'll have a whole day or 3 days of no power.
Yep.
And so,
or in those areas that where power isn't very reliable, then Generac's going to be reliable.
Actually, yeah,
So like your power's flickering, you're constantly losing your internet, or your security system.
Right.
And you're concerned about reliability.
Yeah.
I would flick my lights off and the generator would be it.
Right.
So I could 100% see that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Cool. I mean, we've covered a lot of topics with a lot of passion.
Yeah.
I hope you understand I'm passionate about it.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, for sure. And I'm pretty educated about it, and I love it. I
can tell you've read a little bit.
I love this. I love this topic because it's a very dynamic topic that a lot of people don't know about.
Yeah,
and I think there's a lot of like keyboard warriors that feel like they know about it, but you got to dig in the trenches, and you have to get with people like you to completely understand what's going on. And then, yes, when you finance a solar system, it's going to be expensive, but you got to understand what you're looking at. It's going to be future consumption.
Yeah. I will say, Ash is king, obviously, right? Yeah. The highest ROI is going to be with cash. Typically with us, your ROI is going to be within 5 to 7 years, which is pretty good. 5 years to have ROI. But yeah, there are good financing options out there. There are some bad ones. There are some, there's some fees baked into some of these loans. It's good to have options like we have to be able to say, okay, if your end goal is this, this is what your desired outcome is, well, we have all these options to consider to ensure your success for that long term, right? So
Sure.
Yeah, it's good to have those options.
Sure. Very cool. Well, so we've reached our last portion of the podcast, which I reserve for shout outs.
So,
and so before you get started with yours, which I want you to shout out any family, friends, mentors, anything like that. I just want to say, I didn't mention it at the beginning, but I got this hat from Stanley's, which is a huge watcher and listener of our podcast. The girls there, the bartenders there, they love us. They talk about us all the time, Heather and all the girls there. And so I'm wearing your hat tonight. You guys gave me this hat the last time I was there, and really appreciate you guys listening in, watching. It's one of the really good food for one, and great drinks.
Yeah.
Better drinks.
You can't beat.
But really good food.
Sam's got really good.
Yeah, man.
They're multiple.
It's so good. The mother clucker,
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
man, and you ain't eating again for the rest of the day. Like, do you have that? And we're done.
Yeah.
So those girls there, they do a great job, and thank you so much for the hat. I wanted to make sure they get a shout out. And thanks so much for the Beckham. You guys, like, this is home. And as soon as I walked into this place, you heard it in my voice. Like, I was like, this is home to me. I love it so much because the owners here, they provided us a platform to do these things, and it's grown it to way more than I thought it would grow into. I thought it would be just something fun.
Right.
Yeah, I thought Josh and I were just doing something that's just like, whatever. Yeah. I mean, we were just like, we were just hanging out, and just the first like 3 or 4, it was like, we're just hanging out, right? We're just talking about this, and we're having some drinks and stuff like that, and it's turned into way more. Now we have people that are coming to us, and we have some really big companies that are coming on later on this year, and we've got a couple of venues that we're talking about being a part of.
Oh, cool.
And we're one of the few podcasts in East Texas. So it really blows you away. And we have nonprofits, entrepreneurs, distillers, brewers that have come to us now. And we're booked until March of next year.
Oh, that's cool.
Which is
That's
the hardest part of the podcast. March of next year. 2026. We're booked until February 2026. So that in itself is super cool. And it's not just, mismatched and frizzy type of guests. Some of them, yes, but they provide value to the community. Like, some of these folks that are not super vocal. So I'll just take a second of your time.
Oh, you're good.
Because I know you're ready for your shots. But we have this girl coming on that is a recovery specialist. And she's one of my favorite people, and she doesn't know this. She's very meek and meager, and she gets called when somebody dies, and she goes and retrieves a body. And she's a morgue specialist. She doesn't do any of the like beautification. She just goes gets the body. That is going to be a fun conversation about
my mind's racing.
Yes,
what I would.
Here's the tragic thing: and I saw this like happen about a week ago on Facebook. There's a trying situation about somebody pulling out and hit a bike in Thailand. I heard about it. And it's like kids. They're like 18 years old. Somebody's got to go get them. And tragically, she had to. And what does that scene look like? That is going to be complicated. A complicated conversation.
Yeah.
But nonetheless, it's something to talk about. And she's local. So I'm not trying to make any money here. I'm just trying to share a moment with somebody who is doing something for the area that's not recognized per se. This is somebody who does something that is art. Yeah. And what you do is art. You're underneath houses. You're in attics. You're on top of roofs. You're haven't, you go from one like inside of an attic into a living room, having a conversation about finances. That's hard. And that's what I love about what we do. And that's what our 7 sponsors, 6-7 sponsors love about what we do is they see it and go,
Yeah.
why are we talking about this more?
Yeah.
Why are we talking about people that are making a difference?
Yeah.
So anyway,
There's so many people with full careers and full stories.
Agreed.
It's like,
Agreed. And I think that to a certain point, we've kind of stayed off of like okay, your things because of X. You know this, or you've been around that. Like, I'm not interested. And I'm not going to talk to you about the Cowboys or ESPN or about what's currently trending. I want to talk about what you do and our current guests and stuff like that. I mean, that's what it's about there. That's what our sponsors want to support.
absolutely.
Cool. All right, I'm off my other jet. Like I've been on one time. Josh, I've been on one.
Yeah, oh, you're good.
Yeah, more than most. And I had to go use the restroom. That's out of power. But
That's good.
man, tell me a little bit about some shots that you want to make sure that are
Yeah, I got 3 people in mind, I would say.
Okay.
Uh,
I've definitely given you plenty of time. More
Yeah,
than most.
well-
More than most.
yeah. So obviously my wife, right? I want to start with her. This journey that I've been on through trying to build a business, learning the tricks of the trade, expanding our knowledge, learning new skills, and the time and energy and effort and play that goes into that. She has been 100% supportive of that, and literally I couldn't have done it without her. So shout out to my wife, Tori. Tori, love you, babe. Yeah. And the other 2 is Hank and Mike Johnson. So Hank is the owner of Aurora Electrical Service.
Glad you didn't say Mike Jones.
Mike Joe. Yeah. No, so Hank, he took me in and, started my electrical career with him. Yeah, he's a master electrician. He owns a business and, super phenomenal guy. I've learned since the time I've been there, I've learned so much, and so that's propelling me to my future. And then the last thing is, Mike Johnson. Yeah, he was my mentor in solar. So when I went to start my own business, he was the first one I talked to, and he kind of helped me get started and was a mentor through that process. And so he's a good friend, good guy, good family guy, and yeah, shout out to you 3.
Yeah. What would you put? I would say you're successful. Would you say that?
Yeah, I would say.
What would you say would be your like? What was the reason, or what is the reason?
Yeah, two things I would say to that. Number one is ever learning, always equipping the tool belt. So somebody once told me, I was talking to them, and they said the saying said, if all you have is a hammer, then everything becomes a
Yeah.
right. And so when I heard it's an old saying, but I'd never heard it. And so like 2 years ago, someone said that, it like a light bulb went off.
I think that goes back to like Greeks.
Yeah,
That's a very old.
but it's a good saying because that's what started expanding our horizons on not just solar, but energy efficiency and insulation and the whole holistic approach. And so learning all these skills and the knowledge, to all of this. And so anyways, that propelled me to that. So keep growing, keep learning. And the other thing is persevere. That would be a good quality that I think that I don't have all the best qualities, but I would say that is a good quality as a persevere. Times can be challenging. It can be difficult. You're already crawling under a house, right? Running an electrical wire in the attic like I was today.
Yeah.
In over 100-degree weather, it's at least in that. But anyways, you get my point. It's challenging. It's difficult, and but you persevere, right? You persevere. So those are the two things I would say. But cool, man. Keep the feet going.
Yeah. Man, it's amazing having you on the podcast tonight. I really appreciate you coming on. It was kind of like a last minute ad to a certain degree. I mean, you had a really passion to come on and talk about like differences between your company and some others. And I see you commenting on like a lot of like posts and things like that to clarify, the difference between solar and backup battery and generators and stuff like that. Super active on social media. And I think it's important to get your name out and to tell your story about things, and that's why I had you on.
Yeah.
Like it, and so really appreciate you coming to Mineola and doing this, and I know that you're going to do brick dogs in East Texas. I hope this helps.
Yeah.
And I just really appreciate you coming over.
Well, thank you, Ed. I really appreciate that, Josh. Appreciate the opportunity.
Yeah.
I mean, it was really cool. Good conversation. So I really appreciate it.
Very cool, man. All right. So that's our episode for Jared Brackenridge. I was going to say Brackenridge. Brackenridge.
Some will call me Broken Brew.
Yeah, that's all.
No, we don't. We don't. Okay. Brackenridge.
Brackenridge.
Yes. And so next episode, we have someone coming on that we've had on before. And so, yeah, it's going to be a Zoom, and we don't really prefer that. But he's going to be very, very interesting to talk to. He takes care of a lot of people when it comes to like energy and fitness, especially future. So, Alex has been on before. You're going to love him. It's going to be fun. And thanks so much for tuning in. Have a good one.